A few weeks ago, you took a quiz on solving two-step equations and then also distributing and solving. So I'd like you to have the opportunity to take that again in order to improve on your last score. So we're going to do a brief review and then you're going to take the quiz with the rest of the questions. It would be a great idea to have a piece of paper and pencil ready and a calculator since you don't have this in your packet. So let's get started. When we solve, our goal is to isolate this variable. And so we want to, for lack of a better word, we want to get rid of this 8 and we want to get rid of this minus 6. And we do that by using the order of operations backward. So the order of operations, you can recall, we represent using PEMDAS, parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, adding and subtracting. But because we're going to be undoing this problem, we have to start and we have to go backwards. So we're going to start by undoing any addition and subtraction of the constants, the numbers that are without the variable. Then we're going to undo the coefficients, any numbers that are multiplying or dividing the variable. So one of the most difficult things when we first start this is our eyes see the 8 first. So that's what we want to undo first when we look at it. However, that's not what we do. We take care of the constant, the number that's without the variable. So I see minus 6, excuse me. So I'm going to add 6 to both sides. That's the inverse or opposite operation. And we build that wall to remind us whatever we do on this side of the equal, we do exactly the same thing on the other side of the equal. That eliminates this. It actually mathematically zeroes it out, leaving our 8n on this side, and on the other side we have 32. Now we need to undo this coefficient. Coefficient is a number that multiplies the variable. It's a coworker with a variable. And we do that by doing the opposite operation, which is to divide by 8 on both sides. So again, we can say this cancels out. Mathematically, it becomes a coefficient of 1, and 1 times n would be n. And 32 divided by 8 would be 4. So that's how we solve a two-step equation. Then we added an additional layer to this by adding basically a third step. There are other ways to solve, as Mrs. Nord is going to show you in our upcoming Excel classes, but we're going to start by using the distributive property. So what we need to do is we need to start by releasing the parentheses, and we're going to take this negative 3 times a, multiplying times a, and then I'm going to look at this minus 7 like it's a negative 7. So negative 3 times negative 7. We're trying to get rid of the parentheses. And I'm just going to let equals 36 kind of hang out. We're just waiting until we have the parentheses released. So I now have negative 3a. And here's where we have to be super careful. There's been a lot of mistakes made on this. If we think about our faces to help us, we have a negative times a negative. And our story goes when she's all the way asleep, she's happy. And that means we're going to get a positive answer. So that would be positive 21. I'd strongly suggest you use your calculator. I think it's going to help you. And if you have it, use it. So now we have a two-step equation on our hands that we want to solve. Our goal is to get a by itself. We want to know what a equals. So we are going to not divide, we want to get rid of the constant. And I'm seeing that I'm adding 21, so we're going to do the opposite. We're going to subtract 21 on both sides of the equation. So what's left over is negative 3a, and on this side we have 15. Next, we want to undo the constant. And since side by side means multiply, we're going to do the opposite. We are going to divide by negative 3 on both sides. Again, if you remember our faces and the story that goes with them, a positive 15 divided by a negative 3 is a negative. And over here, we have a negative divided by a negative, so it's a positive one. And when we are given a negative coefficient, we use a negative to divide. Pardon me. So the solution is a equals -5. So now I'd like you to try this on your own, and this will begin our quiz section. I'm going to go on to the first equation that I'd like you to solve. What is the first solving step for this equation? We want to undo the coefficient of +9. We use the opposite by subtracting 9, and that leaves -4y on this side of the equation, and that equals 12. Now state what the solution or final answer of this equation is. After we divide by -4 on both sides, our solution is y equals -3. Let's go on to our second equation. Please solve this equation completely and state the solution. The solution is x equals 7. Let's go on to our third equation. What is the first step of solving this equation? We want to distribute the 9 to both terms inside the parentheses. So this would leave us with a two-step equation of 9w equals 45. What is the solution after we completely solve this two-step equation? The solution to this equation would be w equals 3 after we subtract 18 from both sides and divide by 9. Let's go on to our final equation. What would be the resulting equation after we use the distributive property? The resulting equation should be -2m plus 10. A -2 times a -5 would be a +10. What is the solution after we use both solving steps on this equation? Our final solution is m equals -9. Thank you so much for reviewing and retaking this assessment.